Hey guys, it's Jill here from Lavender and Friends, your source of essential oil education and inspiration. I wanted to do a live today about something that is, I think, quite relevant to a lot of people, and that is basically dealing with anxiety. I call it the anxiety monster, and also dealing with runaway thoughts. So when your brain is racing and you can't seem to just stop that negativity and you feel like you're on this runaway train but you don't know what to do. Now, thank you for joining me if you're joining me live, or thank you if you're watching the replay as well. And I really hope this is a video that can be quite useful. So for those of you who don't know, I actually had postnatal depression with my first daughter. Well, my only daughter, my first child. And prior to having a child, I am a very bubbly person. I'm very enthusiastic. I'm very cheerful. I've got a lot of energy, a lot of people would say. But when I had the postnatal depression, it was a really dark time in my life, and it was a really difficult time in my life. So it is something I think that raised a lot of awareness in me about depression and anxiety, because prior to that, I didn't really have any experience with it. And while I'm free of the depression, which I'm eternally grateful for, I do find that I still suffer from a bit of anxiety. So, yeah, it's not a good feeling. It's really not. If you don't have anxiety, or you've never had it, or, you know, it really isn't a good experience. And it's something that I've really struggled with. I am, in a way, lucky in that my husband has an anxiety disorder, and so he's been a massive support with me. He's been able to really help me through with a lot of techniques of dealing with that. And also, when I had the postnatal depression, I did have professional help. And again, these are some of the tips and techniques that I've learned through that. So what I find happens is I'll get a thought in my mind and it just starts racing. And like, I'll suddenly, in my mind, I'll see like a picture of like a terrible movie, or if I'm lying in bed at night and I'm thinking about, you know, the day or what's happening the next day, I'll just suddenly get this movie playing in my head of something bad happening. And usually it's around my kids or my husband, or, you know, something happening to my parents or my family, or, like, it sounds really strange, but like the other day we had a little bit of wind. I mean, I'm talking like nothing major. It wasn't a storm, it was just a little bit of wind. And we back onto a nature reserve, and we've got quite a few trees. And suddenly I just had this thought of, oh my God, there's a tree. A tree is going to crash. A tree is going to crash. My kids are going to be sleeping. And in my head, I could just suddenly visualize like this crunching noise and the tree falling and me rushing and trying to, you know, dig the children out. And it was just this awful. And I started to get really anxious and overwhelming. I mean, it was an irrational fear. Like it was, and there was a part of my brain that was going, this is stupid. This is not going to happen. Like, what are you going on? But in my head, I just had this vision of like, you know, looking back and seeing the branches, and it was just, even now just thinking about it, I'm getting really quite anxious again. And so I find that the first thing I have to do is I have to just, first of all, recognize it. So when I have this anxious thought and I can feel myself freaking out, I think I need to stop and go, is this a rational fear? Obviously, on a slightly windy day, being terrified that something's going to fall in my house, that's slightly irrational. Like, it could happen, but really it wasn't that windy of a day. Now, if it was a massive thunderstorm and there was thunder and lightning and there were trees falling and there were wind warnings, yes, this would be a rational fear and there could be steps I could take to deal with it. But it was just, you know, a little bit of wind. It wasn't anything serious. So the first thing I find is I have to recognize that I'm having these thoughts and recognize they are irrational. And that can be hard in itself, just to stop and go, okay, take a deep breath. Now, when this happens, there are some oils I do like to use and I do like to turn to, because I find just simply having a big deep breath, first of all, gets oxygen in me, it gets me in that happy space, and also the scents can be a trigger and can be a way of just sort of calming me down. So for me, I'm pretty much always wearing some form of aromatherapy jewelry. So I've got, you guys have probably seen this like 100 times. It's a little bracelet, and you just pop the oil on that, or this is a diffuser bracelet and it's got lava stone, and again you just pop the oil in the lava stone. I often wear it on my necklace as well. So again, if I'm out and about in public and I start getting really anxious about some things, oftentimes when I'm driving or if I'm going in an unfamiliar area, I can get a bit nervous. Just pulling over, taking a deep breath, taking a few deep breaths in my jewelry can calm me down. I also have my touch clutch, which I carry with me all the time. So as you guys know, I am giving one of these away, so definitely enter the giveaway. And again, I just basically carry my oils with me so I can just, you know, grab whatever blend I need and just apply it, take a few deep breaths, calm down. So what are the oils I actually like to use when I'm having a bit of an anxious moment? So the first one that I always turn to, hands down, is going to be my Balance and my frankincense. So Balance is the grounding blend, and that's the one that I find is really good at helping me just to focus, take a few deep breaths. Often I find just putting a drop in my hands, rubbing it together, taking 3 deep breaths, just taking that moment to calm down can really help. I also love with frankincense, putting a drop under my tongue. I find, again, it just gives me that calm feeling. Now, you'll notice this lid looks a little different. And what I have is I actually bought online like a little dropper, which means it's actually a lot easier to be able to just take it and just go and drop it straight under my tongue rather than, I found the bottle, it was a bit of a mess. So I do recommend this. So often if I'm home and I'm having a bit of a moment, I can definitely take a drop of this. Or if I'm out, I actually carry it in my key ring. And again, I'll just put a drop on my thumb and rub it on the top of my mouth. Now, some other ones that I really love and find really helpful. First one I'll mention is wild orange. So wild orange is emotionally, I find it stops the brain chatter. When your brain is racing, you just can't seem to switch it off and you're just getting that frazzled state. I find a drop of wild orange in your hands, rub it together, take a few deep breaths. It's so joyful, it's uplifting, it gets you happy, you get really happy, and I find it really puts you in that positive frame of mind. Another 2 that I love, they're actually quite woody. And now the woody oils are great for grounding you, balancing you, helping you to kind of chill out. And 2 of the ones that I love for this is my Arbor Vitae and my sandalwood. Now, Arbor Vitae emotionally is the oil of divine grace. And that's a big thing for me because it reminds me that it's not just up to me, that I can draw on God's strength. And it kind of helps me to sort of look outside myself and sort of calm myself down. It's a beautiful woody smell. It smells kind of like a sauna, actually, that really rich wood. And that's one I often put in my bracelet. So throughout the day, I can just kind of smell it. Sandalwood is another amazing one in that it's very woody and it's a very calming oil. But unlike lavender, it's not a sedative. So it kind of calms you down, but it doesn't actually make you get really, really tired. What else do I have here? Oh, yes. So I also have my Rose Touch, actually. So the first thing I'll mention is doTERRA does make the oils often in oil form and also in touch form. With the touch ones, they're pre-diluted with a carrier oil and they have a roller. So for this, I can literally just apply it like that, put a little cross on my heart. And rose is the oil of divine love. And again, it's just a really calming smell. It makes me really happy. It reminds me of being a child and running through rose gardens and all those really beautiful memories I have. And it's a very feminine, very gentle one. And again, I find it's really calming, especially when I'm feeling really anxious or really worried. It helps me just to kind of calm down and take a deep breath. And another one I'll mention is Elevation. So Elevation is literally the joyful blend. I love it because it's really uplifting. It's all citruses and it's joyful. And this is a good one I find to pop in the diffuser if I've been feeling a bit anxious for a couple of days. Sometimes I'll have like a really good run. I'll have no issues. I'll be super cheery. Life is great. And then sometimes I'll find I'll just go through little waves where I'll just sort of feel a bit more flatter and a bit more down and my anxiety will kind of be coming out a bit more. And I find that's a really good one to pop in the diffuser. And in fact, Elevation and Balance together is actually one of my favorite combinations to pop in the diffuser, just to, keep me uplifted, keep me super happy. And it's a really great one. Now, I just realized there was another one I was going to mention, but it's actually still in my handbag because I've been carrying it around with me. And that is the Easy Air Vapor Stick. Now, hang on a second. I'll just quickly grab one. Here we go. Yeah, so this is the Easy Air Vapor Stick. So if you guys saw me do my LRP unboxing video, you would have seen what this is. Basically, you just pop the lid off like this. Jody loves balance. Amen to that, girl. It's beautiful. And it's just a little clear stick like this. Now, emotionally, Easy Air is the oil of breath. So often I find when I'm feeling really anxious, I'll hold my breath. Like I'll just you take that really shallow breathing, and I find rubbing this on my chest just helps me to open up, take deep breaths, and really just kind of calm myself down. So when I'm feeling really anxious and I'm having a bit of an anxiety, bit of a moment, definitely I turn to my oils and I use those oils. Another thing that I do that's really important, as I mentioned, is the breathing. So a beautiful, beautiful yoga teacher, Polly is an amazing yoga teacher. And she always taught about how we need to slow down our breathing. So the trick is breathe in for 2, 1, 2, and then breathe out for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you just repeat that. And by counting and focusing on your breath, first of all, it draws you back into your moment, back into the body, back to focusing on yourself. And it's also going to help you to calm down and get that oxygen. So just literally going like that. And even a trick she taught us is literally even raising your hands up over your head. So literally going slowly. Now, I've had someone mention Kabaiba is amazing. I will agree with you. I love Kabaiba, but for those of you who've seen my post, Kabaiba puts me to sleep. One drop under my tongue and I'm literally asleep in half an hour. So that's why I don't use it for anxiety unless it's bedtime. Then I do use it. Beth has said, I love Arbor Vitae and Elevation as well, plus some lemon. Now, lemon's a great one too. I call lemon sunshine in a bottle, and it's a really happy, uplifting smell. So thank you guys for sharing these. And if anyone watching this does have any oils that they find really helps that I haven't mentioned, I'd love it if you would share them as well, so we can sort of, you know, get lots of ideas going, have a good discussion about some oils that we can use. So obviously I do the breathing. That can also really help me. Another thing I do, and I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but I do visualize a happy place. Go to my happy place, as they say in Happy Gilmore. Mine does not have beer and midgets. Mine, generally, I just try to think of a really happy moment in the past couple of days. So today I was playing bubbles with the kids, blowing bubbles. They were popping, they were laughing, they were having a great time. So if I was to start feeling anxious today, I would just close my eyes and just remember that moment, be in the moment, remember them popping the bubbles and how much fun it was. And again, it just kind of breaks that negative thought cycle and gets me back in a happy space. It gets me focusing on something happy and joyful. Another thing as well is I have learned what some of my triggers are. So for me, I don't watch the news. Watching the news really upsets me. I get very anxious. It really stresses me out, especially if there are any bad stories, particularly regarding children, car accidents, anything like that. It sets me off. So for me, I don't watch the news. I don't want to know. I don't find it beneficial to me, so I try not to watch it. I don't watch scary movies. I don't read scary books. I try to avoid reading upsetting articles in the newspaper. I just basically avoid things that I know that are going to trigger my anxiety. Another thing as well that I find really helpful is being active, getting out there, getting active, moving my body, going for a walk, getting some sunshine. I find that can be a really good thing to sort of get away that anxiety. And I find especially if we've had a few really bad weather days, I find that does seem to sort of put me in a bit of a bad mood. So just making sure, even though if it's raining, I'm getting out there and being active. Another thing I will mention that I forgot to before is Lifelong Vitality. So this is doTERRA's supplement range and it is amazing. It has actually been approved by the Therapeutic Goods Australia. TJ has approved this and it is phenomenal. And one of the things I love about it is it's got the right balance of minerals and nutrients and all the good things your body needs to help you to, I guess, function at your optimum. So for me, it helps me to make sure I'm getting good sleep, to have good energy. And if I'm having all those good things, then it's going to help me to regulate my emotions throughout the day, which means I'm less likely to fall into an anxiety moment because I'm feeling pretty good throughout the day. So this is one thing I also highly, highly recommend to people. Now, another thing I will mention is if you are finding that anxiety is becoming a problem, it's impacting your day-to-day life. If you're finding you're getting to the point where you're not wanting to leave the house because you're so worried about what might happen, you're struggling in social situations because you're really nervous, please do get professional help. Like, there is nothing wrong with speaking to a counselor, a psychologist, getting some help. So for me, when I had postnatal depression, I ended up having to go on medication. And you know what? It was the best thing I could possibly do because it just took the edge off. It got me through that period. It gave me a bit of a break so I could learn some other coping mechanisms so I could then get off the medication. And the thing that I always say, and I'm a firm believer in this, if you have a broken leg, you're going to get a cast on it. Like, it's what you do to heal yourself. If you have a mental disorder, then get the help you need to get better. There is no shame in taking any sort of medication or speaking to anyone. And in fact, it makes you a stronger person because you're willing to put your hand up and say you need a bit of support. So if that is you and you are having some issues with anxiety, please don't be afraid to reach out for help. Please do get professional help and, tell your friends about it because then they can support you if they know what's going on. If you would like to try some oils, if you'd like to be interested in finding out how you can get them or finding out a bit more about the oils I've spoke about today, I'd love it if you sent me a message. You can either send me a message on Facebook or you can actually go to my website, which is www.lavenderandfriends.com, and you can just follow the links there. I found using essential oils has been a massive benefit for me in terms of managing my anxiety. I still have my up days and my down days, and I think it's important to remember that, you know, this is a journey and things like this will constantly be creeping up, and it's about being able to recognize when it's coming and taking steps to, you know, I guess stop it when it happens and also try and prevent it from recurring. That's all from me. I hope you guys have found this video useful. I'd love it if you could maybe share it with your friends or tag any friends in who you think might benefit from it. And hope you're having a good evening, and cheers.